Hi, Amy Denney here, founder of Shine Light Therapy and certified Holy Yoga and trauma-sensitive Holy Yoga instructor. I truly believe that each of us was born to shine. Unfortunately, life circumstances sometimes dim our light. But with the right tools, resources, and encouragement, I think we can reverse that. So welcome to Made to Shine, a movement that is intended to help you shine your light a little brighter. So today I am joined by the Beth Ayers, who is the Business Incubator Program Coordinator, I think I got it right, for Innovate Springfield in conjunction with the University of Illinois Springfield. And she is kind of a self-care guru. And so I wanted to not only share a little bit about what she does and how she incorporates self-care and stress management into the programs that they do, but also there's a really special event coming up that you'll want to make sure you stay to the end to find out about and check the description to get the links and details. So with that, welcome, Sarah.
Yes, hi, thank you. I'm so happy to have the opportunity to share a little bit about myself and self-care and Innovate Springfield and how we're doing it over here.
Well, I'm excited because when I did the Co-Starters program through Innovate Springfield, Sarah is the instructor, and she brought to our class, I think the first class, this self-care checklist, and I was in heaven because I love self-care and I'm kind of a geek about it. So I appreciated that that was a part of what we were doing. So tell me more about what Innovate Springfield, I'm new to Innovate Springfield, what Innovate Springfield does for self-care and why that's so important to you.
Sure, okay, so at Innovate Springfield, we help people start companies and support them through our physical space, access to expert advisors, and then the regular programs that we run, which are to help guide them through that process. But starting a company is incredibly stressful. It is extreme highs and extreme lows. It's a marathon and not a sprint. You can wake up one day flying high and literally everything is gone the next day. COVID is a perfect example of how that has impacted small businesses. And so, my background coming previously from, I coordinated training events for the Illinois Coalition Against Sexual Assault. And that's how I learned what self-care even was. I had never heard the word self-care before I started coordinating those events. And I'm like, oh, well, this makes sense. This is really stressful and people need some space to process their feelings. So when I came to Innovate Springfield, and obviously it's a huge change of pace, but seeing people go through those really extreme highs and lows, I thought, we need to have self-care as part of our program schedule, because whether they know they need it or not, they do. It's just very stressful to start a company. It's also, for some people, it's life and death when your finances are tied up in your job and things change. It's just a lot to deal with. So that's why we make self-care a priority here at Innovate Springfield.
So many good points that you hit on. I love that. So people need it even if they don't know they need it. And that was me for so long, stubborn and prideful and independent woman. I have it all together. And as I'm raising my teenage daughter, I see her, I see a reflection of me and her and think, you're going to burn out. You're going to burn out. Slow down or do this. And sometimes I think we just don't know what we need. So every little bit helps.
And that was another thing, learning about self-care and being trained in self-care, is that my perception of it was incorrect. Self-care is not getting massages and living this very extravagant lifestyle. Self-care is actually living in your means and making choices for yourself and within your boundaries. Having healthy boundaries, right? Not everybody needs to know everything about me. And I practice self-care by only sharing, well, sometimes I overshare, by not sharing every story, but eating healthy, getting regular rest, having a spiritual life. There's so much that goes into self-care. And as complex people, we really need to make it part of our everyday routine so that we can be our best selves, right? And the businesses here, the people starting their companies, the world needs them to show up every single day, right? But if they're struggling with their own mental health, they're not going to be able to show up the way that they can.
I love that so much. And I feel that as someone who's starting a business in the middle of COVID, that, and I had a great June, and July was a total bust. And so the highs and the lows are, I mean, they hit you, and you have to make sure you're still eating right and you're not jumping right out of a situation into a bowl of sugar
Right.
or, a 6-pack of whatever,
Yes.
and just having that balance and that management to kind of cover those highs and lows.
And to check in with what really matters too, right? Because it's easy to reel and get caught up in the moment and stress about something. But if you have that self-care routine, you can just ground yourself and go back to it and connect with your family or with your pet. And it's like, oh, okay, it's not the end of the world, right? We're gonna get through it.
Right. So good. So can you think of a circumstance or a story in your life or in the life of somebody you've coached here that self-care has made like a really tremendous impact?
Yeah. Let me think here for a second. I don't know. I mean, I can say it for myself, I guess, would be the best example. I have OCD and a little bit of an anxiety disorder, and I am really hard on myself as a perfectionist. So if I feel like something didn't happen the way I planned for it to, I will punish myself for a very long time. So I practice yoga, and I try to read, and I try to, I take the self-care assessment at least twice a year to check in with myself and see where the needle has kind of shifted. So I'll be like doing great on the exercise and the eating right and the sleeping well, but my relationships, my spiritual life, my, those other aspects just sort of fall by. So I forgive myself, and then I make that intention to keep going.
That's really good. The forgiveness is a huge part. Because you can, that perfectionist part and that comparison trap, you can really start to beat yourself up if you feel like you're falling behind your own goals. And it's really not a race against anybody. This is just your self-care.
Yeah.
So that's important to keep in mind.
Absolutely.
One thing that I just did, it's been heavenly, is I took Facebook off my phone.
Good job.
Self-care.
Boundaries.
Right. So I can't eliminate it in my life completely because I use it for business. But I just took it off my phone because, I'm not present in my relationships with my kids or my husband, and sometimes even my friends when it's on my phone. It's such a distraction for me. And it's a huge addiction for me. I'm sure for other people too. Social media is. I find myself, literally, my thumb, I think, just does this. I don't even really recognize it. So it's gone. It's off my phone. Now, if I could just get rid of the news app, I think it'd be good. So that's a big thing that I've done. But I want to hear about this event that's coming up. Can you give me some details about it?
So I already told you I'm a perfectionist. Last year, I made the most amazing 2020 program schedule, you guys.
Of course.
It was so good. And then it was like, oh, bye, 2020 program schedule. What was that about? But recognizing and managing stress was one of the programs that I had scheduled for August last year. I put it on the schedule to happen. And then when COVID happened, we even had this conversation, like, should self-care be in August? Like, maybe we should be doing that in March or June. Like, people need it now. And I sort of reflected and I thought, and that's true. So we've been providing a lot of resources, but I thought, we're hurting now. I can't imagine how much we're going to be hurting in another 3 months. I think it's important that we keep it on the schedule because things are only going to get more intense with the way that things were headed, and clearly that's the way that it worked out. So recognizing and managing stress will be led by Pam Schleyhorn, and she is an economic development extension specialist with the University of Illinois. She's a star, you guys. She's just had a really extensive career, and she's been working with the University of Michigan and providing a farm stress program to farmers, which is very stressful,
Yeah.
job.
I can
You would have
imagine.
thought, right? I mean, we all dream about it, but actually no, it's stressful. And so she's been doing that for over 2 years now. And we've been kind of connected with each other in the economic development space. And when I had shared my program schedule with her, she was so drawn to the self-care topic, and I was surprised. I'm like, really? But gosh, she's got a lot to offer. She's very focused on evidence-based tools and processes. So she is going to bring so much value to this session. My vision for it is that we can all leave better able to recognize stress within ourselves, and then create those mechanisms for forgiveness and moving on, but then also recognizing it in others, right? Because we're all a part of a team. We're working alongside other people or with our families. We've experienced tragedy in our community recently, and I think that this is a great way for us to, support one another, and make sure that when someone, is making those subtle cries for help, that we're able to see it and able to support them and lead them, to the resources that will be helpful to them.
That's really important. Grief, you touched on tragedy. Grief is a huge underlying cause of stress, and particularly for men, but for all Americans, our culture is really terrible at grief. We really are. There are other cultures that they take a long time away from work and life to grieve, and we don't do that. We are terrible at that here. And so that stuff manifests in our bodies and in our, I'm like about ready to cry. I get so upset about it because we do. And then we end up, what that does is that we end up lashing out in anger. We have physical symptoms. We don't process grief well. So I love that that's a component of it, but I also love that it's science-based, because self-care is not frou-frou, like you said. It's not about the massage. It's about really getting to the heart of what is impacting us, body, mind, and spirit. So, and those are things we can measure, and we know that it makes a difference. So,
guys, I hope you can come.
Yep. So check out the details. And are there other resources that, if somebody catches this video and the event's over, what other resources do you have? Are there some things on your website or?
So we've got a lot of resources on our website, actually. Some are specific to COVID-19. So there's a whole, all the resources that are locally focused. So truly anything from school and access to, resources in the community to help people. So we've got all of that on our website. It's all hot linked. And then there's just so many resources if you're starting a company, so you can check that out too. And then we have programs on our site. So you can view our I Spy Hacks, which is a short video series to kind of deal and cope with Zoom fatigue and loss of attendance at our events. We've been recording some short videos and some I Spy hacks. So you can check out some self-care hacks with Amy, but we've got leadership hacks, design hacks, marketing hacks, a lot of really fun stuff for you guys to consume at your leisure in the comfort of your home.
And they're short. I love that. We don't have to have an hour-long podcast to get a really great marketing tip. I mean, so I appreciate that so much. I like my hour-long podcasts every now and then, but I can't consume them all. So I appreciate that you've got them nice and short. So on that note, we're going to sign off so this doesn't get too long. But thanks for joining us. See you later.
Thank you.